Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there is a ton of news stories to get into today, and I want to talk about Impact Wrestling. We haven't had the chance to talk about Impact Wrestling for nearly a week or so, which is crazy considering all the Impact Wrestling coverage we do here on the channel. It's just been a crazy past 7 days, but we are going to talk about Impact Wrestling today. And a big story at the moment with Impact Wrestling, and we've touched on it a couple of times here, frankly, on the channel, and that is the Impact Wrestling ratings. And they don't look good. That's the problem right now. They don't look good. And now previously, every time I've addressed this and every time I've spoken about the impact on Access TV ratings not being great, the pushback I've received from people, certainly in the comment section below, and I'm not complaining. I love the interaction in the comment section, is that, well, Impact does stream on Twitch as well. That's not happening anymore. Of course, Impact Wrestling removed their Twitch channel. They no longer do co-streaming, whilst Impact on Access TV is on the air. They no longer stream on Twitch. So now they're relying even more on their actual broadcast on Access TV. Now, I know they've merged over to YouTube, and essentially they're saying to their YouTube subscribers, you can become a member. Well, you know, when you can become a member of a channel, you can become a member of the channel and watch Impact on Access TV 30 minutes after it goes live on the air, or something to that extent. That's basically the situation there. But irrespective of that, the numbers aren't good on Access TV, and they're getting worse. Because Thursday's episode of Impact Wrestling on Access TV drew an average of 103,000 viewers on Access TV, according to Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics. Now, this is the lowest viewership since the record low number on July 1st, which of course was 69,000 viewers on Access TV. Now, it must be mentioned, when they did have that record low number on July 1st, that's 69,000 viewers, that was due to a program guide error. There was an issue with a lot of people's DVRs. There was an issue with a lot of people's cable or whatever package you have to watch Access TV, if you are fortunate enough to have it, because the exposure is so remote. The people that did have access to Access TV, ironically, could not access Access TV. How many more accesses do you want to say in that sentence? But that was the situation. So the reason that they had that 69,000 at the time was due to an error, due to a technical error. So this week's number of 103,000 viewers on Access TV with no errors, frankly, I'm almost considering that to be the record low. Now, obviously, I know you're going to say, well, numbers don't lie. Well, that was an error. That was an issue. This time, there's no issue. There was no technical glitch. There was no program guide error. There was nothing. People just didn't tune in. People just didn't tune in to Impact Wrestling on Access TV on Thursday night. Now, this is down 8.8% from the previous show's 113,000 live viewers on Access TV. Thursday's episode drew a 0.04 rating in the 18 to 49 key demographic, which is about 58,000 viewers. This is ironically up from the previous show's 0.02 rating in the key same demo. Now, of course, this past week, Impact Wrestling featured Chris Bay officially joining the Bullet Club, Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers facing AEW star Frankie Kazarian and Sami Callihan and Eddie Edwards in a main event. You also had an X Division #1 contenders match, Fire and Flavor versus Jordynne Grace and Rachel Ellering. So it's not as if it was a bad show. I think that's the crazy thing when you look at this, is that Impact, in my eyes, I know I'm not even going to count that July 1st episode, that 69,000. So in my eyes, Impact Wrestling did its record low last week, and that was a show that featured Kenny Omega, featured Jay White, Chris Bay, the Good Brothers. It's not as if they're putting on a bad show. An AEW wrestler like Frankie Kazarian, who's got a ton of history of Impact too. So it's not in the case of Impact Wrestling putting on a bad show. I think at this point, we are truly seeing the real serious effects, of spoilers. I think that's the situation here. Because on paper, right now, Impact Wrestling should be doing really well. They've got fans back inside the Skyway Studios in Nashville, so you've got fans back on the program. It gives it a bit of energy. You've got arguably the best Impact Wrestling roster that you've had in a really long time. I mean, you've got legitimate big stars on that program, whether it is Kenny Omega, whether it is the Good Brothers, whether it is Jay White, whether it's whoever. A very strong knockouts division as well. Deonna Purrazzo, Mickie James, Melina getting involved. I mean, we've got a really strong broadcast on our hands right now. So with fans being back and this momentum coming out of Slammiversary, the relationship that Impact has with New Japan, with AEW, with AAA, with the NWA, you would think, on paper, if you're an Impact Wrestling Executive Vice President like Scott D'Amore, you're an Impact Wrestling official, you'd be looking at this show going, it's a good show. And it is. It is a good show. But for whatever reason, there's something about Impact Wrestling at the moment that I don't know, just feels a little bit, I don't think stagnant's a fair word to say, but something needs to be shaken up a little bit. Something needs to change. And I don't know if that's because just fans, even the ones that are in attendance, maybe they're just a bit tired of being in Skyway Studios in Nashville, or there just needs to be a change of setting, or there needs to be something that's changed about that broadcast. I think this is indicative, to be honest with you. I think this is indicative of that report that came out 2-3 weeks ago, around the time of Slammiversary, that basically said that Impact Wrestling was looking at moving to Las Vegas, Nevada, was looking at hosting a bunch of television tapings in Nevada, was looking at moving to Vegas for upcoming TV tapings. And I think this is indicative of that. I think Impact realized, look, we've been stuck in Skyway Studios for about 16 months now, irrespective of bringing the fans back. Something just needs to be freshened up. Something needs to be freshened up. And you know, the Impact, again, it's such an oxymoron, because the show does feel relatively fresh. Again, you've got Kenny Omega, you've got Jay White, and you've got names like Chris Bay going into the Bullet Club, so he's going to be crossing over with New Japan. You've got the Good Brothers crossing over with New Japan and AEW, and the Impact Tag Team Championships are going to be defended on Dynamite this week, so it's an exciting time. But there is just something sometimes when you're watching the show that does feel a little bit, I don't know, a little bit slow, a little bit off. And I mentioned it going into Slammiversary this year. And a lot of people disagreed with me at the time, but maybe I was tapping into something there, that there was something about Slammiversary, the build to it, certainly, that just felt a little bit off. And it didn't have the hype that it did the prior year when, you know, we were going into that time of not knowing who these WWE, ex-WWE stars were going to be, or these former Impact names coming back. There was an air of excitement. Now, as we got closer and closer to Slammiversary, the excitement built up a little bit, and the show Slammiversary was spectacular. I think it was a better show than last year's. I truly do. But there is something at the moment that maybe just, obviously, I mean, there's no maybe about it, this obviously isn't latching on to the audience. And I do think spoilers play a big role in that, because there is certainly the people that would watch Impact Wrestling every single week are die-hard pro wrestling fans. They're smart pro wrestling fans. They're smart to the inner workings of the business. They watch channels like this. They go to different websites. They go to, you know, Fightful, Wrestling Inc., Sportskeeda, PW Insider, you name it. They go to all those websites. They probably read The Observer. They're very smart and educated pro wrestling fans that have great taste in channels like this. Bottom right-hand corner, subscribe. Be sure to like the video too. So those fans read all of those websites. They certainly follow a lot of pro wrestling accounts on social media. And maybe when Impact Wrestling had the post-Slammiversary television tapings, they probably saw the majority of those spoilers that were out there, whether it was on social media, whether it was on channels like this, whether it was on websites. They probably saw all those spoilers. And let's face it, there's only a certain amount of things that when you see a spoiler on social media, or you see a spoiler on a certain website, unless it's a really groundbreaking thing and it's a big exciting event, it's like a debut or a return or whatever it is, it's very rare that you see a spoiler and you go, I've got to tune in to see that. I've got to see it with my own eyes. I know I can see it there, but I want to see how it airs on television. A lot of the times when you see spoilers online, the reaction is, that's cool, I don't have to watch it now. I've already basically seen what happens in the show, so there's no need to watch it anymore. And I do think that plays a part in this. So I don't know how Impact would address that. Maybe, you know, when you buy a ticket to an Impact Wrestling event now, they make you sign a non-disclosure form, or in the same vein that if you had a television production, a highbrow television production, or a serious or a big television production, the same as a film contract or whatever. Maybe it's a case of if you attend that event, as part of your ticket, you have to sign something, or you're acknowledging that you are not going to take photographs, you're not going to take videos or do whatever. The problem is that's when you fall into the area of what happened at NXT a couple of weeks ago with the journalists from the Wrestling Observer, or F4W Online, and they were kicked out, and they felt that they were being kicked out because they were part of the Observer/F4W Online website. So that's a really difficult line or subject to address, I guess. So all of that, I think, plays into it, but Impact Wrestling, obviously, I think will be very, very, very aware that they need to change something, because whatever they're doing at the moment, even though I think they're delivering a good product, I do think they're delivering a good product, the product that they are delivering either isn't capturing the fans' attention to the point where they feel like they have to tune in, or isn't capturing the fans' attention to the point where they're excited to tune in, or maybe they need to do something around the way they tape television, in the sense that maybe they need to do tapings bi-weekly instead of just monthly. Maybe they need to do it every 2 weeks. Maybe they need to find a system where the fans don't post the spoilers online. I don't know if that's even possible. But obviously something would need to change, because at the beginning of this year, and around February time, they were doing nearly 200,000 viewers. Now they're doing nearly about half of that. So you've lost half your viewer base from February to August. That's an issue. That is an issue. And I know people can talk about competition, and I know people can talk about there's wrestling on every single night and people are tired, and I know people can talk about the Olympics and all these kind of things, and all of those things do play into it. But ultimately, if you're delivering a good enough product, people will watch. That's it. That's the bottom line with all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see what Impact Wrestling does to address this, because they've got to do something. They do have to do something. Now, an interesting thing I wanted to talk about as well was Jordynne Grace. Jordynne Grace recently did an interview. She spoke about the whole Forbidden Door thing of companies working together, which Impact Wrestling have been very forefront in that. Now, over the past year or so, AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan, AAA, NWA have all come together to share talent. While talents from all of the promotions have gone through the proverbial Forbidden Door and appeared on various shows, the talent exchange has been largely centered around male competitors. Impact Wrestling star Jordynne Grace, for one, says she is disappointed that the talent exchange hasn't featured more females. She was speaking to TalkSport, and she said, quote, "Honestly, I was super excited when it first got announced, but as the months have dragged on, with only a few things happening and never really happening for women, I've been more disappointed than anything else, really. Because I thought the Forbidden Door was definitely going to be wide open instead of having to knock and only a few people get in at a time. But that's the nature of the business, right?" Now, when she was asked about why women haven't been able to cross over as much as the men, Grace said, quote, "I have absolutely no idea. I'm sure it has a lot to do with politics and who can go over there, etc. And you know how it is. People don't want their people to lose, so on and so forth." Now, I know she got a lot of backlash because this came out last week. She got a lot of backlash for it, and I think at one point she ended up actually deleting her Twitter account because of the backlash or something like that. I mean, she's not technically wrong. In terms of the AEW and Impact Wrestling crossover, has there been any female crossover? There hasn't. I think we are seeing more crossover now between Impact. It's just not with that much of AEW. It's with the NWA. It's with Deonna Purrazzo appearing at Empower against Melina. It's with Deonna Purrazzo working with Mickie James. We're kind of seeing it, I guess, with Impact and Ring of Honor. Now with people like Chelsea Green, and we're going to touch on Chelsea Green. She's competing in the Ring of Honor Women's Tournament, and she's also competing for Impact Wrestling. And maybe Jordynne Grace can be frustrated with that. I think those opportunities to crossover are going to come. I think also as well, it depends what kind of deal you make out for yourself. You have to remember, Jordynne Grace was in contract negotiations with Impact Wrestling earlier this year. One would think, and I don't know here, but one would think if she wanted to force through that kind of, I want to have an opportunity to work with AEW, I want to have an opportunity to work with the NWA or Ring of Honor, she could have pushed that issue. And I don't know if she did or she didn't. I don't think it's fair at all to criticize her or attack her on social media. Lord knows pro wrestling fans are crazy like that. And I don't understand to this day why they still decide to attack fans with that kind of stuff. I think it's crazy. I think it's absolutely crazy. But again, she's not particularly wrong. I think a lot of people, when AEW and Impact started working together, I think people even today, certainly Impact Wrestling fans, wanted to see a little bit more crossover on the Impact side of things. I think people wanted to see more AEW names appear, more than just Kenny Omega, more than just Matt Hardy and Private Party. We saw Frankie Kazarian last week. I think a thing that a lot of people said was, if you compare the two companies, not that you really can, but if you compare the two companies of AEW and Impact, certainly one big plus that Impact has over AEW is their women's division. The Knockouts division is stronger, in my opinion, than the AEW Women's division. But we did see a little bit of crossover from the Knockout side. I think of Thunder Rosa appearing at Slammiversary against Deonna Purrazzo. Technically, she's an AEW star. I think at the time she was still possibly an NWA star. But there has been a lot of crossover from the AEW and Impact side of things when it comes to the females. Maybe Jordynne Grace can change that. Maybe that's why she did the interview. Maybe why she said it out loud, because she wants to change that. And I'm sure she's been pestering Scott D'Amore, and Scott D'Amore's been pestering Tony Khan, because it benefits Impact Wrestling to have people like Jordynne Grace appear on Dynamite. Of course it does. Of course it does. And Scott D'Amore's spoken about Britt Baker cornering him in Jacksonville saying, I want to work with Deonna Purrazzo. So I think that will come. I've spoken about this before, that the general feeling is that the AEW and Impact working relationship doesn't end once Kenny Omega drops that Impact World Championship, whenever that may be. So even in a post-Kenny Omega world, we could absolutely see a Jordynne Grace appear on Dynamite. And I think as Dynamite and, you got Rampage coming up, and obviously Dark and Dark Elevation slightly changing, and there's going to be modifications to all of that, I think there absolutely is a possibility that Jordynne Grace crosses over, but maybe not just with AEW, with Ring of Honor, with the NWA. The thing is with this whole Forbidden Door and this working relationship stuff of all of these companies is that it's always constantly evolving. And we did a piece talking about it on the channel about a month or so ago, that Impact feel they have the best relationships they've ever had with lots of these companies that previously they struggled to work with, like MLW, like Ring of Honor, like the NWA. So as those opportunities and as those relationships evolve and they get stronger and a greater degree of trust is built between them, I think we will see more opportunities for people like Jordynne Grace to cross over. As of right now, it hasn't happened, but anything's possible in the future. But that interview, of course, certainly isn't enough for her to be attacked. I think that's crazy. But pro wrestling fans, unfortunately, are crazy, and it makes a lot of us look bad. So it was an interesting point, though, that she did make. Finally, Chelsea Green has been talking a lot about her legal battle, or the trademark battle she's in with WWE. Now, last year, WWE filed a trademark for Chelsea Green, and reportedly at one point they were still looking to keep the name, despite releasing Chelsea Green in April earlier this year. Logic would suggest, why on earth would you want to keep her name if you fired her earlier this year? Because WWE likes to keep all of these trademarks, because in the future they might bring her back, or she might get popular and they can make money off Chelsea Green's name. Now, WWE had to supply additional information to the United States Patent and Trademark Office on August 5th, which included a signed letter of consent from Chelsea Green. The letter was dated November 2020, of course, when she was still under contract with the company. Now, Green has since commented about a potential legal case on the horizon. She said, quote, in a tweet, "I never thought I'd be in a legal battle for my birth-given name. Going to discuss it tomorrow on Green with Envy podcast," which of course is a podcast. Now, Green herself had started the process to trademark her own name in April, shortly after being released by WWE. Since her departure, Green has worked a number of matches for Impact Wrestling. She's currently scheduled to be at NWA Empower later this month, and also did some commentary for Ring of Honor last week. She's going to be part of the tournament too. But there has been developments regarding this potential case between Green and WWE, and that is that WWE reportedly made contact with Chelsea Green on Sunday evening, last night, to inform her they were going to release the trademark on her name, according to a report by Fightful Select, which means she spoke to Fightful Select. Green confirmed this news to Fightful. She also said she would be speaking more about it on her next episode of the Green with Envy podcast. Got to get those podcast plugs in. So it looks like that there isn't going to be any legal battle. Probably WWE just went, it's not even worth it. I mean, maybe it's indicative of the money not to be made on Chelsea Green, that they went, we're not even going to make any money off it. Have it. Do what you want. So Chelsea Green is going to be continuing going by her own name. She'll I guess now own her own name. Chelsea Green's got a lot of heat recently because of certain aspects that the way she's behaved in certain cases on social media. There have been several instances. I mean, there was one about the whole artist stuff where someone said, "Can you just credit me?" And she said no, and that was bizarre. And she then did an interview talking about how many ideas she pitched in WWE, and a lot of people criticized her for that. Some of the things she pitched was like to be a sexy nun, she called it, for Seth Rollins when he was the Monday Night Messiah, or be Dominic Mysterio's girlfriend. And a lot of people perceived that to be she was just trying to latch on to someone else's successful gimmick as opposed to making a gimmick successful for herself. I thought those criticisms were harsh. I can see where people are coming from, but I thought they were harsh. There was one thing that I kind of agreed on, is that when Bray Wyatt got released, she posted like a quote tweet that said, "I'm waiting for Bray Wyatt to join the dark side," and posted a picture of herself. And everyone kind of went, it's not about you. That's not a tweet of support. That's a tweet of, trying to get yourself over. And then someone else posted the tweets about something else I think it was last week, and she said, "Don't worry, you might get cancelled for trying to support someone else that got released." And everyone said, no, that's not what the situation was. So Chelsea Green, I don't know. It feels certainly like with her that she's doing a lot of things to get attention. And some of that, sometimes you have to, the thing is with attention, sometimes bad attention is bad attention. And I know people say there's no such press as bad press, but sometimes there is. That culture's changed at this point. So Chelsea Green, I guess, continues to keep herself in the headlines. But yeah, it's interesting nevertheless. Anyway, guys, as always, it's just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on all these Impact Wrestling news stories we've spoken about today? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about Impact Wrestling, AEW, WWE, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved in the community. Drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube. Go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestling News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or have you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.